Everybody, thanks for the patience. I'd like to call to order the Thursday, March 21st, 2024 Watertown Board of Adjustment meeting. Can I get a roll call?
Yes, Hanson.
Present.
Dargis Johnson. Here. Dolly.
Here?
Brink.
Here.
Valetsky. Present. Kays.
Here.
Spire.
Here.
And Culhane and Ford are absent. We have a quorum, and with items today, we have 7 members. So for variances, there needs to be an approval of 5 members. For conditional uses, it is just the majority. So it will be 4.
Thank you, Brandy. Moving on to item 3 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Brink. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll approve that agenda. Moving on to item 4A on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the March 7th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Motion by Brink,
Second.
second by Spire. Any additional notes or discussion on those meetings? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those minutes are approved. Moving on to item 5A on the regular agenda, which is a consideration for variance request on the zoning ordinance related to the front yard setback in the C2 local commercial district. Brandy, can you pull that up and take us through it?
You bet. Thank you, Blake. So this is a request for a variance request that you all have seen at the previous meeting on February 22nd. So the property in Northridge 7th Edition was approved for conditional use for apartments in the C2 district, and then a variance setback for the rear and side yards to be 10 feet were also approved. And at that meeting and with the site plan that was submitted, it was realized that they also needed a front yard setback. And so what they're requesting in the C2 district, and I'll pull up the site plan so you guys can see that a little closer. In the C2 district, you need a 40-foot front yard setback, but with their request, they're requesting a 25-foot front yard setback, which is consistent with residential districts. Now, in the R3 district, when you're over a certain, how they're proposing 24 units, and so then they would be required a 30-foot setback in the R3, but they're just going with the residential, the R1, R2, consistently with requesting the 25 feet. And I'll pull this up here too, just so you all can see this if we have. So here, once you, with R3, your front yard, after you get 3 to 8 units, then that's when it's 30 feet. So yeah, with that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Brandy. I do have a public hearing on this, so I'll open the public hearing at this time. If anybody's here to speak on behalf or against, you can feel free to approach to the microphone. Anybody to speak in the public? Last chance. All right, close the public hearing. Randy, you brought up the density table and the height and setback requirements for the residential districts there. I believe we had some other discussion recently about potentially making some changes to some of those zoning setbacks that more appropriately address differences in density. Mm-hmm. So I think if you look at there for the R3, you know, the 3 to 8, 9 to 12, and over 12, the setbacks are kind of consistent there. We have made some exceptions to those in the past, and I know there was some discussion around bringing forth some new language here. What is the timeline expectation on looking at that?
So that will be coming forward with recodification. So a lot of recodification will remain to be house cleaning items, but the chart is also in need of some housekeeping. So it will break down it'll break down the R3 uses more, and as well as the rest of the districts as well. I'm not sure though with the front yard. The main thing with front yard setbacks is really utilize, like for driveways, and when it's R3, I'm not exactly sure why we have it at 30 feet. they can still utilize the front yard for parking, but if we had a lesser front yard setback, that would encourage for more of that to remain green space instead of somebody trying to fit parking and have it paved in the front, which I think would be aesthetically more pleasing because they are required to have off-street parking.
Point of clarification, I know they have a site plan that shows a apartment complex, but they don't have to follow that site plan. We're doing a front yard setback variance request. If this approved or if this is denied, they could still build anything they want. And it's also not zoned R3, so they could build anything they want in the C2. I know what's being proposed is apartments, and I trust that's what they want to do. But a year ago, we did a conditional use for this property for storage units, and at that time, that's what they wanted to do. Funding fell through and it didn't happen. So, before we get too gung-ho on trying to treat this like an R property, if we grant this variance, we do have to keep in mind that we're granting this variance to a C2 property.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Case?
as the Board of Adjustment, we do have the ability to attach a condition to the variance. So if we want to make the variance germane to a apartment use, we can do that.
And I'll expand on that a variance request is really like a building permit submittal. So as much as this site plan might change, they are proposing that they be multifamily units. It's not for commercial uses.
Any additional questions by the board? We will need a motion to take action on this.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the variance to allow 25 feet front yard. Just to be specific, that it's only subject to this, not the specific site plan, but the intended use of the property.
For apartments.
Yes.
Motion by Mr. Case,
I'll second that.
second by Dargis Johnson. Any additional discussion before we take a vote?
Yes, I voted last meeting to approve the other variances, but afterwards I kind of thought, I'm like, this is a brand-new piece of property. There's no buildings here currently. If we feel that we need a variance blank properties, I kind of second guessed it after I left, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if we should variance undeveloped properties.
Thank you, Mr. Brink. Any additional comments? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
All right. Spire,
Yes.
Kays,
Yes.
Oletsky,
Yes.
Brink,
No.
Dolly,
Yes?
Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
Hanson.
No.
5 yes, 2 no, that motion passes. We'll move on to item 5B on the regular agenda, which is conditional use request for bar or tavern in the C3 Highway District. Brandy?
Yes, thank you, Blake. So this property is located at 519 9th Avenue southeast here. Sorry, let me get to it. This is the property right along Highway 212 and near the intersection of Highway 81 as well. This strip mall type structure has the business of Smoke Solutions in Tokyo in it already. And in one of the open units, the applicant and owner is proposing to incorporate a bar or tavern use. So you'll see it is this legal description here, as this is the building footprint. There is, and then he has a floor plan of what the proposed bar and tavern would look like. And there is sufficient parking in this area. It's Zone C3 Highway Commercial. And with that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Brandy. Do have a public hearing on this, so I will open that public hearing at this time. If anybody's here to speak on behalf or against, feel free to approach. Is the applicant here?
Yep, he is.
I do have a question for the applicant, if you could come forward.
Hi, I'm Jared Paulson.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. I just had a clarifying question on your application here for conditional use, where it says, describe how the use will be established on the property. It says, I plan to open a bar, grill, casino at my residence.
Oh,
You're not living there, right?
No.
Okay. I figured that was a typo. I just wanted to clarify because this is a commercial property.
yep.
So, funny that you noticed that, because, so I asked him that when he first put in his application. I'm pretty sure that I said that I was gonna change it, and then I had already exported it, and so, good catch.
It
But,
jumped out at me as a typo. I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify, so thank you. Any additional questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair, are you looking at beer malt, beer wine? Are you looking at hard liquor, casino?
It'd
What's
be
your-
beer and hard liquor and a casino.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Paulson.
Thank you.
Any additional public comments?
Brandy, we come in and we make the recommendation, or we approve the CUP. He still has to go to the city council to get the liquor license and beer license.
yep,
Already got them? Okay.
yep, so that transfer happens through city council.
I'll close the public hearing at this time and look for a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use request.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any additional discussion before we take a vote? Okay, roll call.
All right, Hanson,
Yes.
Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
Dolly,
Yes?
Brink,
Yes.
Oletzky,
Yes.
Kays,
Yes.
Spire.
Yes.
Unanimous yes, that motion passes. We'll move on to item 5C on the agenda, which is the conditional use request for apartments in the C3 Highway District. Brandy?
All right, thank you, Blake. So this is a request at 802 West Kemp, over in the building across from the old Wise Pizza building to the west, or where the River Card Casino and Laundromat are currently located. So the building itself, let me get over there. It's zoned C3 Highway Commercial. It's surrounded by R2A, Single Family Attached Residential District. So the building itself does have separate ownership. So the Jim and Shelley Pieper are the owners of the north half, who are requesting this conditional use for apartments. They're currently renovating the building, which is where they, and not for apartment uses necessarily, but just doing in renovations. Then had the thought of doing the apartment use, which then requires in the C3 district that they obtain a conditional use. So they would do one on the main floor and one on the upper floor. If you recall, so there is a caretaker's residence in the building to the west, and then there, where the bar and tavern for River Card Casino is located, it's in the southwest corner of this building, and they actually came forward a couple years ago, I know I have the date specifically in the agenda packet, to move the bar and tavern to the north end of the building, in this location where they're proposing apartments. And so that was denied. And obviously with the, this neighborhood and the surrounding R2A district and residences, there's always that uneasiness about the commercial uses being in this location. So apartments are residential, so that is the proposed conditional use request. And with that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Brandy. This does have a public hearing as well, so I'll open the public hearing at this time. Anybody's here to speak on behalf or against, you can approach the microphone.
Hello, I'm Jim Pieper. I'm the one that's requesting the conditional use. And we were just wondering what we could really do with this property. So I got the housing study here from the city back in June, and I was looking at, it looked like there was about 500 units that Watertown short on right now. So I kind of wondered if that wouldn't be the best use for this for this building. And I'm a realtor in town here, and I probably get at least a couple calls a week for people looking for an apartment, something to rent. And it just seems like Watertown is still, even as many new apartments, buildings as we have, it still seems like we're short quite a bit on rental properties. So that's why we thought this would be a good opportunity to put some more apartments in. And kind of what spurred it too was there's a pretty big employer in town that called me and said they're really having a hard time. They're bringing in people from like other countries that they just can't find housing for. And these people don't drive, they pick them up, they take them to work, that type of thing. And so he reached out to me, and it kind of got me thinking, you know, maybe something like this would work for that as well. So that's why the request has come forward, and it does look like, according to what the city was talking about as far as parking goes, we would have adequate parking out in front as well. So I guess I'm open to questions if you have questions about it.
I do have a question. So in the staff report here, it says that there's 4 stalls available on 802, which would allow you 4 bedrooms in total. Are you going to have two-bedroom apartment units?
There would be 2 3-bedroom apartments, so there would be 6 total bedrooms.
Brandy, is there sufficient parking for 6 bedrooms?
So my calculation was 4. You guys, would probably know better as far as, we'll do a measurement here. So they have about 34 feet, so divided by 9. So they have, yeah, about 4. Little under, but that could be something, I mean, that you would include in your condition. I mean, it's not, it wouldn't be a variance, but I mean, it would have to be like really that they could only have 4 bedrooms.
By ordinance, we have a requirement for 1 parking space per bedroom.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, so when we're taking a look at the apartments and the laundromat and the bar, are those still active uses in the building? Do we have to aggregate all of the parking spaces for all of the uses within that single structure?
So the odd thing about it is that it's under separate ownership.
So
So the Peepers own this front
that
part.
part there,
Yep.
okay. So the only thing that we'd be dealing with is the Peeper request today and the parking associated with his intended use.
Yep.
Okay.
If they had something like a development lot agreement that allowed for shared parking, would that be a different consideration, Brandy?
And that's something that we can look at too with the adjacent property, you know, when they're coming forward with their building permit, because obviously like they're not here for a variance request to the parking requirement at this time.
Yep.
It's just the conditional use. So they could maybe work with their neighbor if they wanted to have 3 bedrooms per unit, and see, we can look at how many parking spaces are needed for the existing uses to the building, to the part of the building to the south, and then see if we could do some negotiating there with what's on the property.
Okay.
And then there is even room, you know, he does have additional space to the north. We just have to be careful as far as, you know, utilizing, this parking is currently legal nonconforming, so because the maneuvering happens in the right of way. But he does have additional space that he could put some additional parking. So there's options
Sure.
for the parking.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Brandy, so across the street is R2A. If this property was R2A, a 2-dwelling unit would be allowed, correct?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Brandy, a question on commercial. Do we allow for apartments to be on the main level? I thought that was not in commercial. Would we not be asking for a variance on that then also?
Only in C1.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe the idea with that is just because it's 0-foot setbacks.
Right.
So it's for separation purposes there and privacy really.
And
Face
preserving some of
safety.
the aesthetic of the downtown district as well.
Yeah. We don't want
Well-
people window shopping during somebody's supper.
Well, Jim, I would just like to let you know what improvements you have done to that building, and they aren't even done. They look great to
Well,
what
thank
it
you.
was.
Yeah, we definitely try. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments, questions? Any additional comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll look for a motion from the board.
A motion to approve the conditional use request.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional comments?
I just want a clarification. So are we going to allow the three-bedroom for parking? Or are we,
Today, they're just asking for a conditional use. So if they wanted to do anything in relation to the parking, they would have to come back for a variance request. Otherwise, Brandy can work it out with them according to the existing policy and standards.
Yep, because so it is just the apartments, and then so when they come forward with their building permit, and if they're showing 3 bedrooms per unit, they only have 4 spots, then that's where we'll work through that, and they might have to, if they might have to come back for a variance, or they'll make it work another way.
All good? Take a roll call vote.
All right, Brink,
Yes.
Dolly,
Yes?
Aletsky,
Yes.
Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
Kays,
Yes.
Hanson, Spire.
Yes.
We have 6 yes, 1 no. That motion passes. We'll move on to item 5D on the regular agenda, which is another conditional use request, this time for storage units in the R3 multifamily district. Brandy?
Thank you, Blake. So this property, if you see here on the map, is just south of the library, the Watertown Regional Library. This is city-owned property to the south. And what the proposal is for, because it's a vacant property in the R3 district, it cannot have just a storage shed on there without a primary use. But obviously, the storage shed is accessory to the library, and if you read in the application, for the uses that they need for their additional storage, and just their programs altogether for that storage. So they are proposing to put a 12 by 24 shed. It's not going to be storage units for commercial rent or lease, anything like that. It is strictly for the library accessory storage. So this is the route we had to go, like I said, just because it is vacant. So this will establish a use.
So Brandy, real quick, there's going to be no foundation. This is going to be on top of gravel, right?
I believe so, but the applicant will be able to speak more to that.
Yeah, I thought there wasn't a requirement. If it was a movable shed, it didn't require a conditional.
No, because you need
House
you
or-
can't do you can't do an accessory use like a shed without a primary use. So yeah, in the R3, it's where you would have a house or an apartment building, and then you could put a shed just by permit. But because there's nothing there, then that's where you can't just have a shed, because otherwise then, yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
so let's pretend that the library isn't a library and it's my house across the street. And I wanted to and I own the lot where the shed's going to be. What would I have to do as Joe ordinary citizen to make that happen?
This same exact thing.
Same thing, right? And if we were to issue the conditional use for the storage facility across the road, we would probably tie both of those lots together from a development right perspective.
We would have done that if there wasn't right-of-way already. Like, we could have just tied them, but there's right-of-way disconnecting them.
But being it would be, that's what we would have to do. So if we go forward with this and we allow this for the city, we would hold the city to the same standard Joe citizen would be, right?
Yep.
Thank you.
We will have a public hearing on this, so I'll go ahead and open that at this time. Anybody's here to speak on behalf or against?
My name is Mike Clute, and we own some property in that neighborhood. I guess the letter that we got wasn't clear that it was for the library use and it was for storage only for the library. My main concern was that it was going to be commercial rental properties. it makes sense possibly to put something there for the library, but when I hear terms like a movable shed, and it's not gonna be, it's gonna be on dirt instead of a pad or whatnot, I think it kind of falls into that same area that Todd was asking questions about. If it's going to be library use, I still think, I would like to see something put in there that fits in the neighborhood, you know, a temporary movable wooden shed. They can be bounced all over the property. I would hope that there would be conditions to what kind of a building got put there, you know? Is it gonna be a tin pole shed? You know, what's it gonna look like? Aesthetics would be important, I think, to the residents in that area.
I can assure you, it has to be residentially sided. And then in the application too, they do have kind of what their plans are for it. But again, I can let the applicant kind of give you more assurance on that, of the type of structure that they're wanting to put there. So it has to fit the residential nature of the neighborhood.
Okay, and then where's the entrance gonna be for that? Will they come in from the side, from the front?
We'll get more details from the applicant.
Okay,
Sorry.
no, that's all
We have
right.
Was there
Maria here
anything
with
that you
the
wanted to add first before she speaks?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Maria Grinner. I'm the library director. And kind of how this came about is the Friends of the Library pledged $10,000 in donations if we wanted to put in a shed. So, because we desperately need storage. And so our plan is, and we have some illustrations that weren't ready at the time if anybody wants to see them. We are planning to have, oh, sure. We are planning to have a concrete foundation put in and have a permanent structure placed there. It's not going to be a gravel placement. It's not going to be movable at all. And there is a little diagram here that kind of shows where it will be placed. We're not planning a driveway or anything. You know, it's going to be furniture or bicycles. We have a bicycle collection that's now stashed in random places in our building because we have no storage. And so it's just going to be like us carting things over and storing it there. We've got some furniture that we don't want to get rid of but don't currently have a purpose for, and so we just like to stash it till we do have a purpose. So that's kind of where the shed is going to go. And the type of structure we were looking at were just something like this, almost, I don't know, like a garden shed. But just something where we could store bikes, store furniture. And it will be a permanent foundation.
And in terms of the placement on the lot, Brandy, where that's positioned, that meets all setback requirements that you would have in the R3 district there?
Yep. And no matter what, like, they have to be 30 foot from the front, 9 feet from the side, and 25 from the rear. So they'll be sitting good where they have it sketched there.
It's a rough illustration, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Clute, does that answer your questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Any additional questions from the board? Thank you. Any additional comments in the public hearing? Last call. We'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion from the board. Yes, Mr. Case?
I make a motion to approve the request, subject to the use of a concrete pad to situate the structure on and meeting all other design standards required within the ordinance.
I'll second that one.
Motion by Mr. Kays, second by Oletsky. Any additional comments or discussion?
I have one comment, Mr. Chair. It's the library, so I think that they'll try to rent it out to anyone else, but I do think if this was anyone else, I think we would maybe consider the condition that they can't rent it out for commercial use. And
I would take that as a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
do we have an amendment? Do we have?
Going to modify your second?
And I'll second that too. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have a motion by Kays and a second by Oletsky with that modified motion. Thank you, Mr. Brink.
Chair, was going to say the same thing, Jeff, that the only reason that I would approve this is because it is the public that is benefiting from the library. So that would be the only reason that I would approve this, if that was just Joe Blow, as we said, it would probably not work so well, so.
I think I
thank you.
said Joe Citizen.
Joe Citizen. You're right.
All good now? All right, we'll take a roll call vote.
All right, Dolly,
Yes?
Spire,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Kays,
Yes.
Brink,
Yes.
Aletsky,
Yes.
Dargits Johnson.
Yes.
It's a unanimous yes, so that motion will carry. Move on to item 6 is the open public comments. If there's anybody here to speak to us on an item that wasn't on the agenda tonight, you can feel free to do so now. Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Is there any new business?
Not today.
Any from the board? Move on to old business.
No,
Brandy?
nope, I don't.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
Brandy, do we know what our meeting in 2 weeks for Board of Adjustment, are we looking for much on the agenda, do you know?
One, just 2 items.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, sorry. Looked like I just, 2 items. I was holding my pen. Sorry, 1 for Board of Adjustment, 1 for Plan Commission.
Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn then. Have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.